Good evening. Hello and welcome. Before we go on camera, I would like to cover a few points that apply to all of us in the live audience. Campaign literature is welcome outside this room. We ask that no candidate buttons, t-shirts, signs, or literature be visible in this room during the forum. If you are interested in learning more about LWV Rochester or would like to be added to our distribution list, information is available in the back of the room or on the back of tonight's pamphlets. Please remain as quiet as possible while the candidates are speaking so that everyone may hear, and please hold your applause until the forum has ended so that the candidates will have all the time possible for getting their points across. We expect everyone to be respectful to all the candidates and the forum process and to follow the library's code of conduct for all events held at the public library. The Rochester Public Library will be live streaming the forum. Tonight's forum will also be available for viewing from a link on LWV Rochester's website. Thank you for coming tonight. Please take a moment at this time to turn off all electronic devices or put them on silent. I would also like to remind the candidates to speak close to the mic without touching it. And now we're going to do a microphone check. So we'll start at the moderator table. Mine is working.
Mic check.
Test.
Test.
Mic check.
Test.
I believe the microphones are working in the room. Great. Okay, all right. Okay. At this time, our national anthem will be performed by Kid Edson. Please rise as you are able.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the Rockies' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you very much. And just a reminder, if you have a cell phone or smartwatch or anything else that might be chirping, please silence them at this time. Good evening again. I am Rachel LaForge, a member of the League of Women Voters Rochester. I would like to welcome all of you tonight, the candidates, the audience, and those viewing at a later time, to this forum sponsored by the League of Women Voters Rochester. We'd also like to thank our generous partners of tonight's forum, the Rochester Post Bulletin, the Rochester Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Rochester Public Library for their help. The League of Women Voters is a volunteer organization organized at the local, state, and national level to encourage citizens to participate in government. While we as a league do study and take stands on issues, we never endorse or oppose political parties or candidates. The views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, not those of LWV Rochester or any partner or sponsor of this forum. Sponsorship of the forum is not an endorsement of any candidate. It is our purpose in sponsoring this forum to provide you with an opportunity to hear candidates discuss face-to-face issues that are important to you. Tonight's questions have come from LWV Rochester, the Post Bulletin, the Chamber of Commerce, and members of our audience. You in the audience are welcome to submit as many written questions for the candidates as you like. Just hold up the cards as you finish them, and a league volunteer will collect them throughout the forum. Questions that are unclear, hostile, or of a personal nature will not be used. Given our format, your questions must relate to all candidates. Questions that fall in the same general area or which have been addressed in opening statements may be consolidated to allow the moderator to cover as many topics as possible in the time allotted. We appreciate questions that are forward-looking rather than a review of past issues. If the answer was unclear to you, feel free to submit a follow-up question or to ask the candidate after the forum. Cards become the property of the League of Women Voters Rochester. As there is never enough time to cover all the issues in a limited time and setting such as this, please feel free to contact the candidate's campaign headquarters directly if your questions are not addressed tonight. We'd like to thank all candidates for running for office, for offering to serve their community, and for the enormous time, dedication, and commitment that running and serving demand. We encourage our members and as individuals, as we encourage each of you, to get involved in your community and the political party of your choice. Welcome to tonight's forum, which features the candidates for Olmsted County Commissioner District 6. Candidates for the seat are Tawonda Burks, Bob Hopkins, and Michael Wojcik. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to offer an opening statement. The candidates will then respond in turn to questions provided by LWV Rochester, this evening's partners, and by the audience. Candidates will have 1 minute each to answer. The candidates will then have 2 minutes each to make a closing statement. I would like to suggest to candidates that you make your answer as succinct as possible. It isn't necessary to use the entire minute for your answer, but please finish your sentence when your time is up. We would like to cover as many questions as possible. Each candidate also has 3 30-second rebuttal cards. These can be used at any point after each candidate has answered the question. Only 1 rebuttal card may be used per question. Please put the card in the basket after you have used it. Again, I would like to remind the audience to remain quiet during the forum, hold your applause until the end of the forum, and to turn off all electronic devices. Our timekeepers tonight are LWV Rochester members Connie Mudor and Eric Voldal. Trained question facilitators are LWV Rochester members Amy Cockett and Anna Froling. Asking questions will be Randy Peterson from the Post Bulletin and Ryan Parsons from the Chamber of Commerce. And candidate Hopkins will begin with their opening statement.
Well, good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters, the Post Bulletin, the Rochester Area Chamber, and the Rochester Public Library for hosting tonight's debate. My name is Bob Hopkins, and I'm asking for your vote to continue serving as your Olmsted County Commissioner for District 6. Serving our community has been one of the greatest honors of my life. During my first term, I've worked every day to stand up for the values that matter most. Protecting seniors, families, and our most vulnerable residents, speaking out against federal cuts to Medicaid and SNAP, defending voter privacy and election integrity, promoting transparency and accountability in county government, standing with families affected by increased immigration enforcement by ICE in our community, and fighting to ensure taxpayers are treated fairly and their dollars are spent responsibly. I am proud of what we've accomplished, but I know our work is not finished. I'm running for re-election because I believe Olmsted County succeeds when we grow together, when we invest wisely, protect those who need us most, and create opportunities so every resident has a chance to thrive and no one is left behind. I would be honored to earn your vote in the primary election on August 11th. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next opening statement is from candidate Wojcik.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here and learning a little bit about County Commission. I'm delighted to be here with you tonight, and but a little bit of a heavy heart tonight. Again, my name is Michael Wojcik. I'm the executive director of the Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota. And if you think about a kid who's graduating right around now, and my daughter just graduated from high school, there's been a lot of trauma over the last few years. Besides the COVID pandemic, which has weighed heavily on a lot of different parts of our community, we've seen a lot of bad things. We saw the law enforcement killing of George Floyd. We saw, and just today, somebody that I knew personally, Melissa Hortman, her murderer was sentenced to 2 life sentences. That was not so long ago. In addition, we saw ICE coming into the Twin Cities metro and murdering 2 people. We saw Renee Good shot by ICE and then left to bleed out and denied life-saving medical services as she laid there dying. We saw Alex Preddy, whose last words were, "Are you okay?" asking to help another person who was shot in the back multiple times. This is a lot of trauma, and it's hard. And I want to let you know that the kind of fascism that we're seeing on the march in this country, we need to stand up at all levels of government and make sure it's not happening here. I'm particularly interested in this because I find this building, this library, to be a safe space in the community. I believe it's an access for everyone to be welcome. And when I see the opportunities and actions being taken to perhaps take funds away from this wonderful institution, or to ban award-winning children's books that elevate families that are a little bit different maybe than yours and mine, I take that to heart, and I want those people in the community to know that they matter to me as well, and I'm here to help hopefully represent them.
Thank you. And an opening statement from candidate Burke.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the League of Women Voters, Post Bulletin, Rochester Area Chambers, and the Rochester Public Library, and everyone in the room tonight. My name is Tawonda Burks, and I am running for Olmsted County Commissioner because I know what it's like to need a community that believes in you. Years ago, I wasn't standing or thinking about even being at this forum tonight. I was a young mother trying to build a future for my family, like so many other people in Olmsted County. I benefited from the programs, resources, and opportunities that helped me get back on my feet. Those investments changed the trajectory of my life. Today, I am an educator, business owner, nonprofit founder, and a publisher of a magazine. I helped entrepreneurs launch businesses, taught financial literacy, connected with families to provide resources, and worked every day to create opportunities for others. I stand before you as proof that when we invest in people, people invest back into their communities. That's why this election is personal to me. I don't see lines on budget items. I see families trying to keep a roof over their heads. I see small business owners taking a chance on a dream. I see the young person looking for hope, the senior wanting to age with dignity, and the neighbors struggling with mental health or addiction. I lived long enough to know that everyday decisions that this county make has a face behind it. Leadership isn't about talking the loudest. It's about listening the hardest. It's about making decisions that are fiscally responsible while never forgetting that those people who you affect.
Thank you. Now our questions for the candidates. Our first question comes from our audience. There is a need for more housing in Olmsted County. As the county board has no say on development inside Rochester, how would you approach annexation versus more rural development if elected? And this will be answered by candidate Wojcik, followed by candidate Burks, followed by candidate Hopkins.
Okay. If everything is a priority, then nothing is a priority. And housing, particularly affordable housing, has to be our priority because it touches every other part of life in the county. And part of what's making housing so difficult is generational bad decisions that were made with transportation and land use. And it's critically important that the county stop making some of the bad decisions in terms of building infrastructure. Just recently, there was a vote on trying to put some suburban subdivisions in the growth path of the city. Those are the kind of things that seem harmless at first, but what they do is they elevate the cost of every kind of housing, and they elevate taxes in the community. They make it impossible. The county needs to lead on transportation and land use in a way that it never has.
Sure, I'll start with, that housing is more than just having a roof over your head. It's the foundation for opportunity, health, education, and economic success. We know that housing is a big challenge here in our community, and it affects pretty much everyone in their daily life. When families can't find stable housing, they struggle to stay employed, all the different things that impacts them, including childcare, disruption in school, things like this. And these are things that we need to take into consideration when we're talking about housing and affordability. But I think, again, I think what's most important for me when it comes to housing is that we have to understand that it's more than just finding a place for an individual to stay or a family to stay. It's the foundation for their opportunity and their future.
Thank you. Candidate Hopkins.
So we know that there's a shortage of housing in Olmsted County. And it's been like that for quite a long time. And there have been various numbers. Some studies would say 18,000 homes are needed. Some are, we need to build 1,000 a year. We know that we're falling far short of whatever those estimates are. I recently rewrote and updated the GAIN plan. GAIN is Growing Affordable Inclusive Neighborhoods for our HRA program. And as a part of that, essentially, I'm advocating an all of the above strategy. We need to build more houses, and using the county to help incentivize builders to build more houses, and that's houses at every price level, both houses, apartments, townhouses, condos, and that greater competition will lower prices and make it more affordable for families to live and work in our community.
Thank you. Are there any rebuttals? Okay, Candidate Wojcik.
And what I would say is, we've never been spending more money locally on housing, and the results have sucked. Let's not kid ourselves. The situation is getting worse, and it's because we're not spending the money in the right way. Again, we need a holistic change in the way that we're doing this, and part of that is we need to better marry land use and the ability to have dense housing. Right now, the city of Rochester is subsidizing $500,000 homes to move seniors into automobile-dominated neighborhoods, and it's just not going to solve the problem. We need to be smarter.
I also have a rebuttal. And when we also talk about the word affordability, I always wonder who comes to mind when we use that word, because in a lot of cases, we know that there's a huge disparity when it comes to home ownership for people of color. And a lot of times when we talk about affordability, even those individuals still can't afford with the additional barriers that exist.
Any other rebuttals? Okay, thank you. Our next question is an audience question. What should the county do to improve the visibility of public health, which is rarely seen in public forums? And our order is going to be Candidate Wojcik, followed by Candidate Hopkins and Candidate Burks.
If we're going to be America's city for health, we need to take that to heart. There's two ways of looking at it. America's Cities for Health can be we can make a lot of money off of healthcare, and oh God, we do that well. It also means that we can build a city where people can live healthy, active lives, and we do that incredibly poorly. If you want to see poor long-term planning, take a look at the paths that are along West Circle Drive and see if you ever see any people walking or biking along there. You can't. It's sun-scorched, it's unpleasant, it's polluted, there are no trees. The county won't allow trees along pedestrian paths. We actually have to build neighborhoods that work for people. This idea that we're going to put a $100 million interchange out in the middle of nowhere and that's going to somehow make us healthier or generate more housing, all it's going to do is drive significant tax increases well into the future. We need to actually build neighborhoods where people can be healthy, age in place, and access their needs with whatever means of transportation they can afford.
Thank you. Candidate Hopkins.
So in Minnesota, normally health is provisioned by the state, but in Minnesota, that comes down to counties. So we're on the front lines of providing health care to our local communities. And one of the, I would say, more recent disasters that have occurred was the One Big Beautiful Bill, which essentially, cut funding for Medicaid and for SNAP benefits to the most neediest in our communities. So one of the biggest challenges that we face as a county and as a community is how to overcome those funding shortfalls, not only because of the fact that we need to help those who are most in need, but also because those shortfalls fall on our taxpayers. Essentially, it's an additional tax on our homeowners here in Olmsted County. It's a tremendous problem and one that we've worked very hard to address.
Thank you. Candidate Burks.
I'm going to ask you to repeat the question, please.
Certainly. What should the county do to improve the visibility of public health, which is rarely seen in public forums?
Health care is near and dear to my heart. And the reason why I say that, because we still have a lot of people in this community without health care coverage. A lot of times, and even those that do, prevention is not shared enough with the community as well. And I say that because there is a lot of people that don't know how bad they are until something happens. And that you see that a lot. You see that a lot. But I think what's most important is awareness, prevention, and bringing education to the community. And I say that because I sit in many rooms, many forums, many conversations talking about health-related questions and giving resources that are right here in the community.
Are there any rebuttals? Okay, our next question will come from the Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening, candidates. How do you view the current business climate in Olmsted County? As County Commissioner, what actions would you prioritize to support business investment, workforce growth, and long-term economic competitiveness throughout the county?
The order in which you will respond is Candidate Burks, Candidate Wojcik, Candidate Hopkins. Candidate Burks.
That's my jam. Okay. So there's a lot that needs to be done when it comes to entrepreneurship, small business ownership within our county. We see every day a business closing. We also see businesses starting too, but will close within a year or so. I do believe that the county needs to provide more resources or continue to partner with other organizations that exist in this community that support small business and entrepreneurship. I know I don't work for the county or anything like that, but I'm directing people every single day to the county how to navigate applications for their food and beverage license or whatever type of license they're seeking on a county level with very limited resources. So I would say that the county does need to partner more or better with the organizations that exist that support small businesses and entrepreneurs. We also need to support small businesses as well as a community, right? I saw a post earlier today that another business was closing, and a lot of people were trying to flock to that organization now because they're closing. But we need to do better as a community to support small businesses so they can stay open.
Thank you. Candidate Wojcik.
I originally grew up on the Iron Range, and let me tell you, the economy here is absolutely awesome. And you don't always hear people saying that. There's challenges, and there are things that we can do better. But in terms of opportunity, it's been a wonderful community for us. But it's really two communities depending on what your wages are. We need to be encouraging the right kind of businesses. Poverty wages, businesses that are paying poverty wages where you can't even afford to live in Rochester, that's not something that we should be putting governmental resources into. We should be trying to focus on creating a value proposition that people want to be here. The biggest issue is not having enough jobs, it's having people who are willing to come here and do the jobs. That's going to be the challenge we face. We have to do a better job of providing housing. Again, that number one priority of housing. Why would you come to this community and be poor because of the housing costs? We start out by addressing the housing needs, and we make sure we're a community that's attractive to young people by making sure we don't go down culture wars and make sure that all people are welcome in this community.
Thank you. Candidate Hopkins.
So I've recently written, and I plan to present an update to the Olmsted County Economic Development Authority plan. It was presented 2 years ago before I came on the board. I believe it's important that Olmsted County create Economic Development Authority and give themselves the tools, give us the tools that will enable us to create a more diverse economy. I agree with Michael. Our economy here is robust. We do very well. It's stable. We have, an excellent workforce. We have a lot to be very grateful for. But the one thing that I would say, and any small business owner would probably agree with me, I hope they would, is that you can never rely on one customer. And here in Rochester, our one customer, our one big business is Mayo Clinic. So diversifying that business climate is going to be important as we move forward into the future.
Thank you. Are there any rebuttals? Seeing none, we'll take a question from our online audience. In what way, if any, should the county restrict electric bikes and e-scooters on bike paths? The order for answering will be Candidate Hopkins, Candidate Burks, and Candidate Wojcik. Candidate Hopkins.
Yes, I just recently sat in a meeting of ROCOG, that's the Rochester Olmsted County of Governments. And we were talking about, obviously, transportation issues. And one is an upcoming overview of the county's Parks and Trails plan, a strategic document that they're going to be working on. And of course, the trails came up as a serious topic. And one of the things that I wanted to highlight during that meeting, and I'll be paying attention to as we move forward, is that trails not only be seen as a recreational item, as it has traditionally been seen, but also be seen as part of our transportation infrastructure. With the advent of e-bikes and the considerable proliferation and adoption of e-bikes, those trails can be a true and viable transportation mechanism and transportation means for many people to communicate or to commute here in town.
Thank you. Candidate Burks.
You know, I don't have much on this topic, but I will say this. If you are under a certain age, just say 5, for example, like I have a 5-year-old at home and she doesn't have an e-scooter, but she has a scooter, so she stays on the sidewalk. But I would say I would pretty much have the consensus of what majority of the board would say is right, but I will say that everyone needs to wear a helmet and be safe.
Thank you. Candidate Wojcik.
And I don't need the question repeated, but who was the question from?
The question came from our online audience.
Online, perfect. Okay. I have thoughts on this topic. So first of all, let's just do a basic understanding of government. Cities and counties are going to do almost nothing on this topic because it's not their jurisdiction to deal with. So let's get that one out of the way first. If you really want to address issues with proliferation of e-bikes and scooters, it has to come down to building safer infrastructure. We do a horrible job of that, not just here, but across the United States. When we're talking about road safety, traffic safety, and the use of transportation options, cars kill 40,000 people a year. They're the issue that we have to design around. What we want to do is allow people to have transportation options that work for them. I can tell you that e-devices have been phenomenal for an aging population. They are like the pickleball of the transportation world. They're that popular with seniors, and we want to make sure that we make those options safe and viable.
Thank you. Are there any rebuttals? Okay. Our next question comes from the Rochester Post Bulletin.
A jail needs assessment indicates the 161 usable beds in the county's adult detention center are inadequate for current needs. What steps do you believe the county should take to address the increased pressure on space in the jail?
Our answering order will be Candidate Burks, Candidate Hopkins, and Candidate Wojcik. Candidate Burks.
I'm sorry, that was to increase space, or can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
What steps do you believe the county should take to address increased pressure for space in the jail?
Address increased space. I think I would have to know the full picture of our current state of the jails and what's going on. Do all offenders need to be incarcerated right now? Do some need to be at home on house arrest during work release programs, whatever it may be? But I think I would have to see the full picture and know more about that to give a fair assessment. But I do believe, like I said, there could be some low-level crimes where we don't have to house as many people in the current jail now.
Thank you. Candidate Hopkins.
So I believe capacity at the jail is at about 90% right now. It's been steadily rising over the past several years. We could take several steps to address potential shortages. We're not quite there yet. One of the principal ones is the adult diversion program. And that is essentially exactly what it is. It's the opportunity to identify individuals who would be appropriate to not actually house in the jail. And there's a program in place. It's well run, and perhaps we could expand upon that. We also have drug treatment courts and veterans courts that we could also look at and potentially expand for those particular programs. And finally, Dodge County is an important partner for us with the jails. Dodge County, actually, we house their inmates, and we can work with them in terms of to offset fixed costs for the jail.
Thank you. Candidate Wojcik.
Well, I'm going to be the first to go out here and be courageous and say I'm going to not get incarcerated. So I just wanted to differentiate. No, the here's the thing: if everything is a priority, then nothing is a priority. Housing is so much more important when it comes to capital needs. I don't believe that incarceration should be used for anyone who is not a danger to the public or themselves. I think there are other options of dealing with short-term detentions. I am not interested in prioritizing limited capital dollars, especially in the era of the big, beautiful bill, into building more jail cells.
Thank you. Are there any rebuttals?
Yes, I do have one. I just want to add too, though, if we're at 90% capacity at our jail now, we should not be housing Dodge County inmates. And our county residents are paying that. So I just wanted to add that to it.
Well,
Candidate
Yeah.
Hopkins?
I'd just like to clarify. Dodge County inmates are in the jail and they do offset costs. We have fixed costs. Whether a jail cell is vacant or occupied, we pay for that jail cell. Whether or not someone, a deputy needs to be, on that floor at any given time, or a healthcare provider needs to be available, they are fixed costs. So anything that we do in partnership with Dodge County helps offset some of those costs. It's really not taking space away from anyone here.
Thank you. Are there any other rebuttals?
I just thought they were both going to say they weren't going to get incarcerated.
Thank you. All right, our next question comes from the audience. In what ways, if any, would you work to better improve communication and collaborations with other elected bodies within the county, including the City of Rochester, the township boards, the school districts? The order of our answers will be Candidate Wojcik, Candidate Burks, and Candidate Hopkins. Candidate Wojcik.
I've been involved with different local governments for more than 20 years now, and every 2 years you're hearing people, oh, we're going to fix these communication issues, and a lot of it is some platitudes that don't necessarily yield results. I think we need a game changer with everything that's going on right here. The reality is Rochester now is approaching 80% of Olmsted County, and at some point we have to say this is not sustainable to do double of everything, and we actually have to take a look at merging governments and government functions and being more efficient in that way. The bottom line is every collaboration still runs into issues when you have different sets of elected officials and different priorities, and we need to actually align on the elected bodies and what the goals are long before we trying to solve any particular communication issue.
Thank you. Candidate Burks.
Yeah, I think I already have great relationships with elected officials, other leaders in the community organizations already. Oftentimes people say to me, you're all over the place, but it's for a reason. It's because I'm carrying resources from one room to the other, as well as back to the community. So I would continue to be that resource in the community, involve myself very deeply. I care very much about the community. So I will continue to build the relationships that I have been doing for years.
Thank you. Candidate Hopkins.
So, I would focus on, areas where we could be most productive in working together. And there are a number of areas where I think that we definitely can do better. In the area of affordable housing, for one. Affordable housing it affects us all. The city has certain tools that they can bring to the table. There are certain tools that the county can bring to the table. If we work together, we could be much more effective overall. The other one is economic development. Again, if we create an EDA, an Economic Development Authority, we as in the county will be able to bring additional tools to the table. And again, the city has some significant tools that they're using, including TIF financing and other tools, to help encourage greater investment in our community, but we can also partner with them on some of that. So there are two principal areas where I would work with the city on.
Thank you. Are there any rebuttals?
I got one left, but I'm going to save it.
Our next question will come from the Rochester Chamber of Commerce.
What is a priority you believe is essential to the financial stability of Olmsted County moving forward? And what strategies do you recommend to reach that stability?
The order of the responses is candidate Hopkins, candidate Wojcik, and candidate Burks. Candidate Hopkins.
Well, at the risk of sounding a bit like a broken record, I'm going to, talk about economic development again, because I do believe that by us focusing on economic development and bringing those tools to the table, including, loans and grants, infrastructure, helping with infrastructure costs, et cetera, as well as marketing. I mean, we're not going to draw companies here without actually doing some research and doing some of that hard work. And specifically, one of the things that I would love to see happen is, for us, we're working on Energy Park that creates a sustainable business park. That's quite unique. And the economic development activity and authority would enable us to really make that happen. Likewise, with Graham Park and the Seneca site, these are principal and very visible areas in our community that can also be developed in a way that would benefit the community.
Thank you. Candidate Wojcik.
I don't support creating a county EDA or any other kind of new form of government. I'm more interested in merging what we have right now. I'm going to go back that if we want to be viable in the short term and long term for businesses, it's housing. We need housing, and in terms of what steps we'd make, we need to make it easier to build housing, in particular sustainable, dense housing. Both the city and the county just got a overview from a group called Urban 3 that showed where our productive land values are. And what we've done as a county is we're largely investing in the unproductive land values, which aren't even covering their own costs, while neglecting the ability to build in the other areas. We have got to make it easier and allow for more dense housing in more neighborhoods, particularly along transit.
Thank you. Candidate Burks.
I'm going to start with saying that the government doesn't have to try to solve every problem that we have in the community. I'm going to start there. I do believe that the county does not need an economic development department. We have amazing economic development organizations in the community. I do believe the county needs to better partner with those organizations for the support that's needed there when it comes to small business ownership and entrepreneurship. I think that's where the start should be. I do think that when we talk about affordability, housing, and those things like that, it goes a little bit deeper. We have people that buy a home and they're foreclosing within a year or two of purchasing that home. So I do believe the county should do better with financial literacy, with educating these people about the things that comes with home ownership. So again, we keep talking about affordability, but who exactly are we talking about when we talk about affordability? Because it's not for everyone. And so we need to be mindful of those that are lower income, that are also wanting to be homeowners, and how do we educate them to stay in their homes for the long run?
Thank you. Are there any rebuttals?
Yes, I do.
Candidate Hopkins.
Yeah, just to address Mr. Wojcik's idea of reimagining county and city government. As someone, and essentially the vision is quite dramatic. And as someone who's worked in the federal government for a number of years at executive levels, I've been through many reorgs. And there's a couple of things about reorgs. One is they are never cost-free. They are always very expensive. And number two is that a reorg usually leads to another reorg, right? And on and on and on.
Thank you, Candidate Hopkins. Are there any other rebuttals? Okay. Our next questions come from the audience, both in person and online. In what way, if any, should data center construction be regulated in Olmsted County? And in what way, if any, should Olmsted County respond to the proposed data center in Pine Island? The order of our responses will be Candidate Wojcik, Candidate Hopkins, and Candidate Burks. Candidate Wojcik.
First and foremost, keep your goddamn data centers out of our groundwater, full stop. We do not want these facilities. We have enough problems with groundwater here. They cannot tap our groundwater. That has to be a hard stop. Second of all, the massive quantities of electricity they're going to use, they need to create enough electricity to offset that, but not only offset that, but offset it at what's called a capacity factor for utilities, meaning that you actually have to build a lot more power than you're going to consume because timing comes into play. But I am so damn passionate about protecting our groundwater, and I'm really disappointed the county hasn't done more to just put a hard stop on these big water users.
Thank you. Candidate Hopkins.
Well, just to clarify, the data center in Pine Island is actually in Goodhue County. It's not in Olmsted County. So we have had very little to do, if anything, with that project. I will say this much, though. Anyone who has a 401k and has seen gains in this economy, and 401ks have gone up, is largely driven by the tremendous investment in AI and specifically in data centers. Right here in Rochester, right downtown, Mayo Clinic is spending $5 billion on Bold Forward Unbound, essentially creating the future of healthcare. That future of healthcare is AI. We need to embrace AI. We need to leverage it. We need to mitigate our concerns and thereby enjoy growth and prosperity for our community.
Thank you. Candidate Burks.
I'm going to be very brief because if we already have a problem with homeownership and housing and homeless and small businesses closing, we shouldn't even be having a conversation about data centers.
Are there any rebuttals? Candidate Wojcik.
Those groundwater aquifers go between counties, and we should be using everything, including the threat of litigation, to protect our water. Furthermore, I am blessed that I have a 401k, but I want to be very clear. I'm here to represent the people that need clean water and sure as hell don't have 401ks.
Are there any other rebuttals? Seeing none.
Yeah, I'd like to rebut that. I mean,
Do you? Yep.
Can I-
Okay. Go ahead.
yeah, I have one left. So the truth of the matter is that, you know, this data center, and I don't know why I'm defending it because it's not even in Olmsted County, but I will say this much. They're using air cooling. The water that we have, the Jordan and Prairie du Chien aquifer is not an issue with this particular data center. And quite frankly, in our area, given the climate, et cetera, water is not a considerable issue. So I guess I would tend to disagree with that.
Are there any other rebuttals? Okay. Our next question comes from the audience. What are the county's responsibilities to ensure there is no voter intimidation at the polls? How do you feel about our election process? And what happens if ICE arrives at a polling place? Our answer order will be Candidate Burks, Candidate Wojcik, and Candidate Hopkins. Candidate Burks.
It's a loaded question, but I do believe our county does have a great process in place as it currently is for election. And I do believe that if ICE was to show up at the voting polls, I trust that our sheriff department and local police department will do their jobs.
Thank you. Candidate Wojcik.
Part of the beauty of our election system is it's decentralized from the federal government, and we have a very safe and secure election system. Voting fraud is basically non-existent. Unfortunately, voter suppression is a huge issue that has to be addressed. And, you know, the reality about ICE is that is an organization that has killed Minnesotans. They have lied about it. They have blamed the victims. And if ICE is going to show up at our polls, local law enforcement should treat them like any other terrorist organization that shows up at our polls.
Thank you. Candidate Hopkins.
So I've written a letter to the editor. I've spoken out very forcefully on this particular issue as it regards providing voter data information to the federal government. We have our elections here in Olmsted County and throughout Minnesota are very well run. That we have widespread participation, probably more so than almost any other state in the nation. And I think that providing that private information is an affront to voters. It takes away from the integrity of the process. Voters should not have to give up their privacy to exercise their right to vote.
Thank you. Are there any rebuttals? Seeing none, our next question will come from the Chamber of Commerce.
What do you believe is the key infrastructure priority within the next 5 years for Olmsted County?
The order of response will be Candidate Hopkins, Candidate Burks, and Candidate Wojcik. Candidate Hopkins.
So we're in the midst of a major transition presently. In the industrial economy, roads, highways, and railroads were the principal means for growth and prosperity. We're now in the AI economy, and the principal means for growth and prosperity is through transmission lines. There are major transmission lines that are being built across the Midwest. We happen to be right smack dab in the middle of the whole thing. We have a major substation up in what they call North Rochester, which is actually Pine Island. And there's a good reason why the data center is located there. But these, you might say, transmission superhighways are going to be the growth avenues for our entire economy as we move forward.
Thank you. Candidate Burks.
Yeah, I would say that, our community is constantly growing. And for me, being here for a very, very long time, seeing that the Seneca lot is still empty and hearing conversations of a debate of what should be there, I think we should have been planning for this 10 years ago. So with that being said, the community is constantly growing. We should already be in the future planning what infrastructure looks like for our county and our city. And so for me, it's kind of sad to see a comparison between what should exist even at that property, if it should be a museum or art center or something like that. We know the community has grown. We knew this 10 years ago. So we should have been planning then and not competing for our arts and museums.
Thank you. Candidate Wojcik.
Housing is infrastructure. Housing is the most basic and most important infrastructure. It's very true. We are going through transitions. I wouldn't say that we're in an AI economy because I think it's more of a plagiarism of actual creators economy right now. But I would say that yes, and why are we building $100 million interchanges in the middle of nowhere that generate no sustainable housing, no affordable housing? And while those tax revenue might be coming from other places right now, the maintenance, it's a $2 million a year on average cost for the next 50 years for pieces of infrastructure that are getting us nothing. The purchase of Seneca was nothing but a vanity project. The county has enough stuff we can't afford to maintain what we already have. Let's focus on not building more stuff and trying to be more sustainable with what we have.
Thank you. Are there any rebuttals? Seeing none, our next question is a conglomeration of questions from our online audience, our live audience, and the League of Women Voters. In what way, if any, should Olmsted County regulate the sale of things like flavored nicotine products, including vapes? The order of our response is going to be Candidate Burks, Candidate Wojcik, and Candidate Hopkins. Candidate Burks.
Yeah, I think the county should, for one, increase the age to purchase these products. We see that vaping and what it does and how it is attacking our children within this county, and great initiatives that are currently taking place. But I think if we start to increase the age to purchase these products and actually be more stricter on the sellers of these products as well, I think would help a lot. Just like how alcohol is regulated, I think we should be like that with e-cigarettes and vapes and cigarettes and other smoking products.
Thank you. Candidate Wojcik.
Any economic or procedural hurdle that the county can put in the way of people getting to these products is a good thing. I support anything and everything that the county can do. Something like 10 years ago, I was on the city council, and there was a group that came in trying to advocate for being able to do more with vapes because they were running a little kiosk in Apache Mall, and they were telling me how great these vapes were because they're so much safer than cigarettes, and they got their kids to stop smoking. And, as was often the case, I kind of caught some heat for like, this is ridiculous. Nothing you're saying is true. And this safety hasn't been proven. It's just another way to try and addict generation to things that are going to suck their health and suck their wealth. And anything the county can do to make it harder for kids to get access to these, I'm all in favor of it.
Thank you. Candidate Hopkins.
Just to kind of level set, youth vaping is actually down 45% over the last several years, down to 5% of middle school and high school users report using flavored vapes. Nevertheless, it's still a concern. Youth vaping is a concern. We need more education campaigns and programs on dangers of vaping. And I also want to point out that the age to purchase is 21, the same as it is for liquor and for cigarettes. On dangers of vaping from the county and in our schools, we need to, and we're looking at this. There's a very active campaign in the county right now to curtail the sales of vapes. But we're looking seriously at ordinances to strengthen enforcement of sales to minors, straw purchasers, and eliminate illegal and dangerous products from store shelves.
Thank you. Are there any rebuttals? Okay. I think we have time for one last question from our audience. This has come from our online audience as well as our live audience. Do you believe our local libraries are properly funded, and do you have any specific plans for funding our public county libraries? The order will be Candidate Hopkins, Candidate Burks, and Candidate Wojcik. Candidate Hopkins.
So I strongly support libraries, all the libraries in our community, and there are many. A number of communities in Olmsted County have their own libraries, and they're doing a great job engaging their respective communities. The county right now, we're mandated to provide about $800,000 a year to libraries. What do we actually fund them at? Right now, it's up to a little over $1.5 million per year. Now, funding for this year will increase. I can confidently say that, even though no budget has passed yet, no vote has been had, nothing has been decided. But I know the will of the board, and that that funding will increase, and it probably will see considerable increases as we move forward.
Thank you. Candidate Burks.
I'll start with, we have an amazing library here. We do, absolutely amazing. However, I do believe they need more funding for additional resources that they need. We need more bookmobiles within the community to give access to, literary access to, individuals that cannot get down here to the library. So I do believe that additional funding is needed for the library. And like I mentioned before, we have a wonderful library. But at the same time, there's a lot of people in this community that does not have access to the library that we have here right downtown.
Thank you. Candidate Wojcik.
For 25 years, I've loved this library. It's been an important part of my family, my children's growing up, and it's thank God they got rid of some of the late fees, because that would have bankrupted me at one point.
Go to jail.
I'd be incarcerated. The reality is the proposal before the county is a direct cut to the Rochester Public Library relative to funding otherwise. I'm not gonna let that piece go. We need to be funding libraries much more. There's so much need in the community for places for kids to go that are safe, and you don't have to spend money, because money is a huge issue in this community. The library is one of those. In addition to, obviously, I disagree about the banning of the book. I disagree about the cutting of the funding. But in addition to that, there was a facilities plan that came to the library board that every single person on that board supported bringing it forward. And my county commissioner did not, and that was the exception, and then spoke against it publicly. These are huge issues. You can't just turn your back on the library.
Thank you. Are there any rebuttals? Okay. That concludes our questions portion of our forum. We will now hear the closing statements from each candidate. Candidates, you will each have 2 minutes to speak, and Candidate Banks will go first, followed by Candidate Hopkins and Candidate Wojcik. Candidate Burks.
So as we close tonight, I want to leave you with one final thought. Every budget we approve, every policy we adopt, every vote we take will ultimately come down to one thing. Who are we becoming as a community? I believe in Olmsted County is the best when we see potential instead of problems, when we invest in people before they reach a crisis, and when we make decisions that strengthen not just today, but for generations to follow. I'm not asking for your vote because I have all the answers, because I don't. I'm asking for your vote because I know how to bring people together to find them. I live the challenges that many families face today in this community, and I benefited from those same opportunities that the county had offered. And I've spent my career paying that investment forward. That's why I believe so deeply in responsible government that is accountable to taxpayers while never losing sight of the lives we change and serve. Public safety matters, invest in our youth matters, mental health matters, strong local business matter, and these aren't separate issues. They're all connected because they're all about building a county where people have the opportunity to thrive. This campaign has never been about politics for me. It's about purpose. Some people know me as an educator, other people know me as a small business owner, nonprofit, and all the other things that I do within a community. But no matter how you know me, I hope you know this. I have never waited for a title to serve this community, and I will continue to do so.
Thank you. Candidate Hopkins.
Well, thank you again to the League of Women Voters, the Post Bulletin, the Rochester Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Rochester Public Library for hosting tonight's event. And thank you to everyone here and everyone watching online. When I first ran for this office, I made a commitment that every decision I made would be guided by 3 principles: engagement, transparency, and responsibility. Engagement means listening before deciding. It means ensuring that neighborhoods, businesses, underserved communities, and residents all have a voice in decisions that shape Olmsted County. That's why I've consistently advocated for greater public involvement in major projects, including the future of the Seneca Food site. Transparency means residents deserve to know not only what decisions are being made, but why. Through my term, I've worked to keep the public informed through county meetings, community updates, letters to the editor, social media, and my annual constituent letter. Responsibility means protecting taxpayer dollars while making smart investments that strengthen our community. I've worked to balance fiscal discipline with compassion, advocating for responsible spending while standing up for seniors, families, and our most vulnerable neighbors. Service has been the defining principle of my life, from serving in the United States Navy to serving as a federal government executive to serving today as your county commissioner. I would be grateful for the opportunity to continue that service for another 4 years. I respectfully ask for your vote in the primary election on August 11th. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Wojcik.
Thank you, everybody, for taking some time to learn a little bit about what County Commission is. As much as I wish it was otherwise, local government is not necessarily sexy. That's just the way it is. And no one up here is incapable of doing a good job. I've met people who are legitimate bad candidates. That's not the issue here. I'm running largely because I have a deep felt difference in terms of what's available at our public library, the support of our public libraries, and our commitment to housing. These are some issues that I'm very different on. I'm particularly sensitive to trying to ban books in public libraries, and I want to talk mostly not so much to the general audience, but to the kids of this community, because all the time we're seeing more and more groups that are taking shots at people who are a little bit different. Maybe it's the kindergartners that are wearing a hijab. Maybe it's people with black or brown skin. Maybe it's people that weren't necessarily born here. And sometimes it's LGBTQ families that are a little bit different. There has been a concerted effort to go after materials that normalize different kinds of family. And what I want to let the families that are a little bit different know is that you belong in this community. There are a lot of people who are not necessarily looking to get back into local government, but really care about you. We want you to be safe, and we want you to know that you're all right just the way that you are. You are loved by this community, and there are people that will go out of their way to try to protect and make sure that you are protected in our community. I'm not willing to sit idly by and see kids that are a little bit different have their materials taken off the shelf because one particular organization thinks it's not cool.
Thank you, candidates. I would like to thank each of the candidates for participating in tonight's forum. Thank you for your service to the community and for your willingness to participate in the democratic process by running for office. I would like to remind you that the views expressed in the forum tonight were those of the candidates, not those of LWV Rochester or any partner or sponsor of this forum. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you to our partners, the Rochester Area Chamber of Commerce, the Rochester Post Bulletin, and the Rochester Public Library. Remember that primary election day is August 11th, and that early voting has started. If you have voted by absentee ballot and would like to change your ballot based on what you have learned tonight, visit mnvotes.org for more information on the process. Please remember to vote. If you have a question about your polling place, would like to see your sample ballot, or learn more about the candidates, visit vote411.org. Rochester Public Library and LWV Rochester post complete, unedited recordings of these forums. Editing is authorized only for official media reporting. Excerpts or edited clips of this forum may not be posted on candidate websites or social media or used for political purposes. Links to the LWV or Rochester Public Library recordings, however, are welcome. To see this forum again or to find the link, access the forums from the LWV Rochester website or the Rochester Public Library YouTube channel. Good night, everyone.